Insulin is what allows your cells to absorb the glucose in your blood and use it for energy. If you are insulin resistant, or you're not producing enough of it, you can't get that glucose out of your blood. It starts causing damage within your body. Insulin is a peptide, short protein, secreted by specialized cells of the pancreas, and is known to most of us as the hormone that regulates blood sugar. In response to a meal, insulin is secreted into the bloodstream. In circulation, insulin interacts with receptors on the surfaces of cells as a key interacts with the lock. Insulin trips these locks, opening up glucose transporters which shuttle glucose from the bloodstream to the interior of the cells, like I just said. So, if you're insulin resistant, or you're not producing enough, that blood sugar just stays in your system. And this is what's happening in the metabolic syndrome. Notwithstanding the role of genetics and environment, it appears that lifestyle alone is sufficient to trigger this state of insulin resistance. Lifestyle alone. Increased energy intake and sedentary lifestyle, or rather eating too much and sitting on your butt all day, not to put too fine a point to it, upset the energy balance of the body, which means you're just getting fatter by the day. It could be, you may not notice it from day to day, but man, we know people out there, we've dealt with people that, maybe they've lost weight or whatever, or thinking about trying to lose weight, but they keep eating in that excess. Then you follow their progress, and they might be putting on, a pound a week of fat. A pound a week of fat, or even if you just put on a half a pound of fat extra a week, 1/2 of 1 pound of body fat in a week is 26 pounds heavier at the end of the year. Now think about how that works, how that just keeps accumulating when you keep overeating. You can gain 26 pounds this year or more. Next year, another 26. After 4 years, if you gained 26 additional pounds a year over a 4-year period, think about your body 100 pounds heavier than what it is right now. This happens to people every day. We see it. Elevated blood pressure. Decreased insulin sensitivity helps drive changes in the biology of Phil's vascular tissues. This includes the cells which form the inner linings of its arteries and veins and comprise almost the entire wall of capillaries. Derangements in insulin signaling inhibit the release of nitric oxide from these cells. Nitric oxide is an important signaling molecule involved in the regulation of vascular tone. In short, it tells blood vessels to relax, which has the effect of lowering vascular resistance and decreasing the blood pressure. In the setting of metabolic syndrome, nitric oxide release is depressed, blood vessel tone is increased, and blood pressure goes up. The result is hypertension, which is the silent killer, as we all know. In the case of the Phil here, that high blood pressure put a strain on Phil's heart. He had a heart attack. Inflammation. Recent work reveals that the metabolic syndrome is strongly associated with an increase in systemic inflammation. Inflammation promotes the development of atherosclerosis and degenerative changes in many tissues, promoting the development of the sick aging phenotype. One of the principal sources of inflammatory products in the setting of obesity and metabolic syndrome is the fat itself. We now know that fat cells can release a number of products with untoward effects, including TNF-alpha and interleukin 6 and C-reactive protein. Fat cells also release abnormal amounts of other so-called adipokines. May have absolutely butchered that, which further aggravate the interlocking interactive process of the metabolic syndrome. This sort of process in which a tissue releases signaling molecules into the blood to affect physiology for good or ill is what a physiologist would call endocrine activity. In other words, in the setting of his obesity and metabolic syndrome, Phil's fat tissue behaves like an abnormal gland, producing an unhealthy adipokine hormone profile that accelerates the pathological processes at work throughout his body. It can happen to every one of us. He talked about dyslipidemia. Finally, the metabolic syndrome appears to contribute to the development of dyslipidemia, which is the increase in blood levels of serum triglycerides, which is fat, and bad cholesterol, which are widely believed to be a major contributor to the development of vascular disease, leading ultimately to heart attack and stroke. The relationship between dyslipidemia and vascular disease is more controversial than it used to be, in part because drugs designed to correct dyslipidemia have had mixed results, in part because low-fat diets have only a moderate effect, if any, on the rate of heart disease in populations, and in part because the scientific literature on this topic appears to be a big mess. And if you got too much fat going around in your bloodstream, I think everybody knows, it leads to bad things. And he goes on, he talks about sarcopenia and osteopenia. Sarcopenia is when you're losing lean muscle tissue. You don't want to lose lean muscle tissue. This happens when you don't eat, when you don't eat properly, when you don't get, all the nutrients you need, when you're protein deficient. Protein is what repairs and replaces all the tissues in your body. So as we age, when we start eating not as much protein as we did when we were younger, we start losing muscle mass. You've seen it, the little old man, little old lady with the real flabby arms. They maybe at one time they weren't flabby, now they are. It's not just a fat loss, it's muscle loss. And then osteopenia. Osteopenia is when your bones start getting soft and brittle and not replicating the way they should. We've all seen somebody with osteopenia. You see the little old church lady that's all stooped over and humped. It's a sad thing, and it's not just women, but it seems like a lot of times that's who we see it in most of the time. Frailty. I'm about to wrap this up. The sick aging phenotype is coming into focus now. We see how Phil has gone from merely overweight and inactive to a condition which his insulin signaling is disrupted, his blood pressure is creeping up, his muscles are slowly wasting, his strength is declining, his bones are more brittle, his tissues are more prone to inflammation and degeneration, and his blood is full of fat, giving it the consistency and color of a strawberry milkshake. Dr. Sullivan, once again, he's an emergency room doctor. He has seen what he's talking about here. It's not just a figment of his imagination or something he's seen on television or whatever. He's seen this. Phil is a wreck, but his nightmare is just beginning. Hyperglycemia eventually slides into full-blown diabetes, and Phil needs oral hypoglycemic medications like metformin or glyburide to control his blood sugar. These medications are effective for a while, but they don't get at the real root of Phil's disease, and they have significant, occasionally fatal side effects. Eventually, Phil will get his first prescription for insulin syringes and needles, and the fun will really begin. We all know. We all know Phil in our life somewhere. We all do. Phil's elevated blood pressure progresses to severe hypertension. We know this in people too. And his doctors have him on no less than 3 blood pressure medications. These drugs are now absolutely necessary to keep Phil from blowing an O-ring, but they make him a bit dizzy sometimes, which further potentiates his sedentary proclivities. Phil's sarcopenia continues unabated. His body's muscle match, which should be a vast landscape of insulin receptors and a major consumer of food energy, is becoming a wasteland of weak, stringy, insulin-resistant, well-marbled, dysfunctional meat. Phil's exercise capacity has gone from poor to pathetic, and his opportunity to turn things around diminishes with every gram of muscle tissue lost. Since Phil never lifts anything heavier than deep dish pizza, his skeleton doesn't have much to do, and his bone density is dropping fast. Osteopenia is the ever-present sidekick of sarcopenia. Phil is progressing from weakness to full-blown frailty. Illnesses and injuries that would be merely troublesome and painful for a healthy person will shatter him. Systemic inflammation propels Phil into a twilight realm of chronic pain. His joints are creaky and achy. What's left of his muscle mass is sore. His tendons and ligaments are floppy and weak. They injure easily and heal slowly. Phil has knee pain, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, headaches, delicate skin, and a chronically upset tummy. Phil's dyslipidemia prompts his doctor to start him on statins to lower his cholesterol. The available evidence suggests statins will produce a lipid profile on a lab report that will make his doctor feel good about himself, but the evidence also suggests that, numbers withstanding, Phil is statistically unlikely to reap any meaningful benefit from this therapy. He does turn out, however, to be one of those individuals whom statins lead to muscle pain, making it even more unlikely that he will begin an exercise program anytime before the rapture, and the statin doesn't do wonders for his diabetes either. So sometimes the cure is worse than the disease. Things have gotten out of hand. Hypertension, diabetes, inflammation, and dyslipidemia are inflicting terrible damage on vascular trees and critical tissues throughout Phil's body. His kidneys and retinas are showing signs of damage. Arteries in his heart and brain are riddled with degenerative plaques. He hurts all the time. His strength, exercise tolerance, and mobility are in the toilet, along with his quality of life. He hasn't been laid in years and couldn't get it up even if the opportunity miraculously presented itself, little blue pill or not, which would bring us to another affliction, polypharmacy. You get sick, your doctor puts you on all kinds of medications, it jacks you up. Following, these paragraphs, Phil dies. Phil dies a miserable death. My friends, with the work that we do at David's Way to Health and Fitness, we're not doctors. We can't help you like a doctor can, but we can help you with turning around your diet and help you with, exercise advice and such. We can help you to begin living a healthier life in order to try to prevent you from being Phil. This stuff is no joke. Our nation's in trouble. I tell people all the time, we have a rising cost of health care all the time. You can be a part of the problem, or you just don't have to participate. You can sit around and complain all day long. Oh, woe is me. I don't want to have to pay all these high medical costs. Well, don't say you don't want to pay the high medical costs as you're sitting there chowing down a half-pound hamburger and washing it down with the delicious thick chocolate milkshake with the side order of fries or nacho cheese or whatever. Don't complain about the high cost of medicine. That's your life. If you're living like that, it's your fault that We can't do anything about the cost of insurance, but we don't have to participate in going to the doctor all the time and racking up high medical bills for things that are otherwise preventable. They are preventable for you, they're preventable for me, they're preventable for everybody. Let me say most everybody. There are some rare exceptions out there. You know, there's some people that are legitimately, you know, messed up with poor genetics. I'm not talking about these people. I'm talking about people who otherwise were born with good genetics. And one thing you got to remember too, a lot of times people think, oh man, you know, my genetics are bad, you know, I come from a fat family, and you know, everybody's got health problems. But a lot of times that fat family and those health problems are a familial thing and not a genetic thing. Everybody in the family eats wrong. Everybody in the family has health problems. Everybody in the family eats right, exercises. Odds are they're not going to display those things. Eating right, exercising requires effort and work. You know, our work, we don't charge you anything to access what we do on the website or this YouTube channel. We don't charge anybody anything. This is a ministry to us to try to help people to live longer, more productive lives. Like to think of it too, you know. I say it is a ministry, and although we don't preach the word all the time on here, you know, it is our desire that, you know, if you haven't found salvation through the grace and blood of Jesus Christ, it's our hope that maybe we can help you to live a longer life and possibly receive that salvation. So, with all this being said, I'm going to close this out. God bless you. I hope that everybody got something out of this video. Some of these things are pretty harsh, but it's real life. Life is harsh. But, you know, we got to get up every day and be grateful for what we do have. We live in a wonderful world. Our bodies are wondrously made. We can be healthy and live long, productive lives. We can do so many things nowadays. But the problem is, you know, people have gotten lazy and gluttonous. Therefore, even though it should be the best time in the history of the world for people with their health, with the 68% rate of people in America alone being overweight or obese, it's not the best of times, but we're doing it to ourselves. So, comments, questions are welcome. This is, you'll either see this straight up on our YouTube channel, or maybe you'll access this video through the website. It's going to be there. And I think enough's been said. God bless. We love each and every one of you. We just want to try to help people. With that, I'm out. Love you.